Hello, welcome to PR Insider. I'm Lauren and I spent 20 years in the centre of mainstream media. As part of that, my job was to create news, hide news, curate news, and also amplify the stories that I wanted you to know. I've left mainstream media. I could not work in a toxic industry anymore, which I believe is getting worse. And so I'm going to share with you what I believe is going on behind the scenes. Now, we will talk about Princess Catherine being attacked by some of the UK media. But before we move on to that, I want to just take a moment to put Princess Catherine in the centre because her recent event alongside Prince William with Donald Trump has secured headlines all around the world. And she very much looks like the perfect princess, wearing Diana's tiara and looking just perfect. And I think this is really interesting because Princess Catherine and Prince William are frequently seem to be painted in a really negative light by some of the media. And I'll explain why that is. But they came out and that picture spoke 1,000 words. It was elegant, it was classy, it was stylish, and it was such an important event. And it was brilliant to see her in full health and looking amazing. But we know that they are not able to answer to stories and to get their side across. And that's what makes the attacks on them even worse because they are not able to say anything. I believe they're very much following the late Queen's advice of never complain, never explain. Because if they were to get into that answering back to every kind of press story, negative and rumours, it would be a never-ending cycle. And so the late Queen's advice is absolutely spot on. Now, we must remember the mainstream media is a for-profit corporation. So we are kind of tricked into thinking that they genuinely want to bring us news. But good news does not consistently sell. And the royals are a huge part of mainstream media's business model and actually what makes it thrive. Now, I do consistently say that I do believe at times the royals do benefit from some of the rumours and some of the coverage that may not always seem favourable because it puts them into the spotlight. And I'm always very clear that if we were only seeing pictures of the royal family opening swimming pools in regional locations, we would lose interest. We are fascinated by them and we do want to know about them. What we don't want, though, is negative coverage towards Princess Catherine, because it seems to me that they've got a little bit bored of writing positively. And we know that Harry's nauseating 4-day fake royal tour has created more of a rapport with the UK media than people initially thought it would. But does not explain this horrific piece of coverage. So Daily Mail columnist Amanda Platell wrote, William and Kate have become the prince and princess of boring. This is why they need to stop skulking around and take a leaf out of Harry's book or risk Charles's wrath. This is absolute rubbish. First of all, I just want to say, if any of you are parents watching this, and I have 2 daughters, for me, I have a huge amount of admiration for Princess Catherine and Prince William for the fact that I'm very aware that there will come a point when King Charles isn't here where they will have no choice but to push the children much more into the public domain. And because that would be the roles when they move up. So the time that they are spending partly out of the spotlight, I think it's incredibly important for them as a family, because we know that Princess Catherine has really strong family values, and we know that she has very strong ties with her family in Bucklebury. And so she has very much kept the children grounded and as normal as possible, given their titles and given the fact that they are in the royal family. So I don't think anyone at home is sitting there with a sane mind thinking, oh, Princess Catherine, Prince William, you are so boring. No, I think, do you know what? I've got more respect for you because you are prioritizing your family and because you are doing what you need to do. Let's not forget, Prince William lost his mother incredibly early and had to navigate his life at boarding school at Eton um, without a mother. And the impact on a child is unimaginable, that the trauma and that would have. And I say the same for Harry. I wouldn't, you can't take that away from someone just because they behave badly. You know, what both of them went through with losing their mother is heartbreaking. Add into the fold the fact that King Charles wasn't, should we say, the most present father, and I don't believe he was particularly paternal as such. So the fact that Princess Catherine and Prince William want to have some family time, and also let's not forget, whilst she recovered from cancer, I just think it's absolute insanity that they are now being bullied in the press, because this is what it is. It's bullying. And I believe this bullying is happening because a narrative cannot stay positive for too long. And what I mean by that is, if you have all the royals, if the mainstream media are just putting out positive press on all of them, then their sales will dip at some point. And obviously, because they're for-profit corporations, they want those sales spikes. You know, they want as much money as possible. And what they don't see in that is they don't see that not only is it absolutely unethical to be running negative press about Princess Catherine when all she does is the absolute best, and we cannot fault her. And if she did something wrong, I'm not a mouthpiece for the royal family. I would say, but I don't see any way that she can be getting negative press whatsoever. And so for me, this comes to, it's a sales spike, because we know that the Mail have been running really nauseating coverage regarding Harry. And so, if everything's too positive, this is very, very un-mainstream, because they thrive on the negativity. And so here we are with the piece that Amanda Platell ran on the 12th of September. And we go to the first part, and it says, ahead of Harry's whirlwind 4-day pseudo-royal tour, many, myself included, dismissed it as just another desperate and calculated attempt to integrate himself into the royal fold. Well, that is what it was. That is. There's no doubt about it. Yet, I have to confess, I was perhaps too cynical. Harry's visit brought us something we have not seen for a long time from the royals: laughter and joy. Princess Catherine's had cancer, and it's not really a laughing and joyous time. I don't know. Cancer's affected my family. I'm sure it's affected many of your families. Not a joyous time at all. So that's a very, very strange thing to say. So, which leaves many of us asking why William and Kate have decided to hide away and become the Prince and Princess of Boring. Goes on to say, there have been fantastic pictures of Harry larking around with children in need, images like those of the cheeky Harry of old, dare I say the kind of pictures that Princess Diana generated during her short life. Harry's visit to the UK was so highly orchestrated by the palace, in my opinion. You don't just go to Ukraine, first of all. That takes months and months and months of planning. There is no way we know that Press Association covered the entirety of the 4-day fake royal tour. So it's very confusing, I would assume for you as well as me, that you're seeing what's going on, and Princess Catherine and Prince William have done nothing but keep the monarchy together. And then we have journalists, opinion columnists, who are trying to chip away. Now, I would argue this was testing the water. So we know that the Mail and their podcast lost thousands of people, thousands of listeners when they were not nice about Princess Catherine. I myself haven't listened to it. But I would argue that this is either trying to get a little bit of a sales spike, because let's be honest, opinion columnists are not employed to write positively all the time. I would argue that long-term, good, well-respected opinion columnists have always got something feisty to say. And I think the Mail really, really got it wrong this time. And they then, you'll see here, tried to backtrack. So 4 days later, on the 16th of September, Amanda Platell writes, "I'm so disgusted with myself for the cruel things I said about Kate. I'm choking on my words now. I know the truth. Kate, I'm just so sorry." Now, I feel it's disingenuous. I don't feel this is a proper apology. And the piece then goes on to say, "On Saturday, in the wake of Prince Harry's whirlwind pseudo-royal tour and the reconciliation with his father, King Charles, I warned of the dangers to the monarchy of the return of the prodigal son. I lamented the Prince and Princess of Boring, William and Kate, had decided to hide away from the public eye at such a critical time. Blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm now not just eating my words, but choking on them. After reading details of the Princess of Wales's hectic itinerary for President Trump and First Lady Melania's historic second state visit to Britain, which starts today." That part ends by saying, "I now regret that I overlooked what a valuable asset Kate is to the royal family, and for that I owe her an apology." So I would argue, I don't know anyone else that has overlooked Princess Catherine being a huge asset to the royal family, because, you know, in the United Kingdom at the moment, life isn't great, actually. And if you're watching this from the UK, you will know that life is really not good in the country. And if you are watching this from one of the Commonwealth countries or somewhere else in the world, hello to you guys. But also, I'm sure you will have seen press that we are not in a good way in the UK. And so actually what we need is someone that is holding things together. And I don't want someone that is chasing Netflix. I don't want someone that is setting up pap shots. I'm not saying Meghan is, but I'm saying as a professional expert, maybe. I want someone that's reliable. And also what made me really cross about this article was that Amanda spoke about a dull textiles factory. And the textiles and the fabric industry, it produces 1.3 million jobs in the UK. And what I would argue is that the Mail, after publishing it, got a huge backlash, quite rightly so. And I don't know how a piece like that slipped through. But, you know, you have to look at the wider picture. You do not start bullying someone like Princess Catherine, who is putting her children first and has been recovering from cancer. And I would argue that actually the reason she resonates and the reason she, without question, has the hearts of the nation is because of those very values. So this has spectacularly sunk for the Mail. And I would just urge everyone that we can all fall into the trap of maybe late at night scrolling and reading kind of clickbaity things. But the only way to teach these kind of mainstream media outlets that this is not acceptable is to hit them where it hurts. And to hit them where it hurts is in their pocket. And that is so make sure rather that you do not buy them and that you do not click on this clickbait, because the mainstream media would be running royal scandal after royal scandal, or creating it if they could, because it sells for them. The royals are part of, our culture. Everyone has got numerous royal stories, and they know how fascinated we are by them and how much we love them. But they got it incredibly wrong. And it's not good enough, because whilst I believe King Charles has not been a very present monarch, and I say that even before his health issues, I think that Princess Catherine and Prince William have showed up. And actually, I would argue that her visit to the WI and the textiles factory, that is really interesting, because what she doesn't have is she doesn't have an ego. So you don't see her just going to maybe the parts that Meghan would cherry pick with the paparazzi. You see her actually on the ground meeting real people like us doing real jobs. And these are the foundations of our country. These people that are working, it is normal people that make this country go round. It is not celebrities. And I think Princess Catherine very much understands that. Now, I wanted to address that my comments in my YouTube have been going nuts. I think there's over 1,000 comments in one of the videos, and I'm truly, truly grateful for all of your support. I was asked, is Prince Harry coming back into the fold? No, I truly, truly do not think he is. This is what I think. I believe that I don't like calling him Prince Harry. I believe that Harry is being contained to some degree. I think that King Charles is really not well. And so if you work backwards, and I feel awkward saying this because obviously when someone's alive, it's very strange to talk about them and their ending, but I'm giving analysis. So for that purpose, I will explain it. I believe that King Charles is very, very poorly. And I believe that it would overshadow his reign in the palace's mind if he hadn't seen Harry for X amount of time and he passed, and the next time he was in the country, he would see his father and his father had passed away. That is my gut instinct. And so I don't think this is a big reconciliation. I think this is trying to contain an absolute live wire. And it also squashes the possibility of Harry being able to monetize the royal family negatively if potentially conversations have happened that have said, I don't have long and this is my final wish. And like I say, I don't want this to be seen as a baseless conspiracy theory. I do not want to be seen as spreading rumors. This is my expert analysis of having worked in mainstream media as a publicist. And what you often have to do as a publicist is do kind of go a few steps back and think, okay, how do we manage this? So that's what it looks like to me. I think a lot of people are very upset, and I've seen that in my comments, and a lot of people feel really hurt and let down, and I absolutely understand that. I don't think you're going to be seeing, Harry in the fold whatsoever. And I think that the stories about the Zooms and, the grandchildren, to me, this is very much leaked. It comes across like it's leaked by the palace. And again, it's like the drip, 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 and suddenly you've got a puddle. And that's what I mean by leaking stories. They're kind of subtle leaks, but if you look, it's gone from Harry not being here to Harry's here, Harry's in Ukraine, Harry's with disabled children, Harry's with people that have been affected and lost limbs. um, amputees. Harry is at the Diana Awards. Harry is in Nottingham, and then Harry sees King Charles for tea, and then, oh, now they're Zooming. And this is what I mean about creating a narrative. It's very much like this. It's not kind of billboards telling you what's going on, it's subtleties in the background. And so that is very much my belief. And I do believe that King Charles very likely thinks that he wants to dot some I's and cross some T's before the time comes for when Prince William is king. And I think that it's hard to say whether I think it's a good decision or not, because I'm mindful that, you know, it's not my business to comment on that. I'm a PR expert, and so I'm giving you my expert analysis. I think he's probably trying to do a balance of being a father, but also teeing things up for Prince William and Princess Catherine for when the time comes, for when they take over. But people are very, very angry, and I understand that, because people have bought the books, they've seen the Netflix, they have just seen Harry and Meghan trash the royal family time and time again. And his argument is, well, I was just correcting stories. You can't argue with someone like Harry, because he just won't have it. I think him and Meghan live in an absolutely different universe to everyone else. And so I say that, it's really important to not click on those stories and show publishers you're not interested about Harry, and you won't accept negative content about Princess Catherine. So that is your nugget for today, and I hope you have enjoyed it. I would really appreciate, as a new channel, if you like, comment and subscribe. And thank you to everyone for all of your comments and all of the support so far. As a new channel, it really does mean the world.